Let's start a podcast about our mental health. For no good reason why, let's call it Mind Cake.
Well, guess who's back, everyone?
Oh.
Welcome to another slice of Mind Cake.
Mind Cake.
With him,
Lee Crompton. And him,
Paul Beeson.
Amy Alexander. Oh, no, sorry, it's Paul Beeson. Hi,
Yeah.
Paul, you're back.
Yeah, she's not taking my job
Yet.
Yeah, my notice period didn't come through, folks, so you're stuck with me.
Let me just check my phone. Well, this is the trouble. She's in New Zealand time, so it's difficult to...
Yeah, or maybe, just maybe, she's dinghying you.
No, we've got a lot of episodes. A lot of episodes left. A lot of episodes left, mate.
Oh my God, mate.
Because we've got another episode where she talks a little bit about manifestation and sort of, you're going to love that because you're into all that shit, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that because you've told me briefly about that, but I haven't heard it properly yet, so I'm all ears for that. I'm very excited.
So there's that.
Yeah.
Plus, well, so we've had we had the actual episode, the bonus episode, we've got the manifestation episode, and I then also want to speak to her about the differences between yoga and Pilates, because I don't actually know. And her giving up the booze.
The booze, yeah, that's
we've got more episodes to do. Anyway.
Loads of Amy Alexander to come, folks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Whether that's hosting or not, we don't know. We don't know at this stage. Anyway, this episode, should we get into what?
Oh,
yes, you've been looking forward to this one, haven't you, Paul?
This is another good one. Yeah, another good one. We're smashing out the good guests, aren't we?
Yes, we
hitting
are.
them for six, you might say.
Oh, any other cricket analogies you want to?
I don't know anything else about cricket, really.
This one will grab you by the googlies.
Oh yeah. Don't be a duck.
Oh, talking of which, Dr. Jan sent me a picture earlier.
Okay. Nice segue.
She was in Urban Outfitters.
Yes.
And she saw a cushion, and on it just simply read, "Don't be a dick."
I think that's sage advice for everyone going forward.
You said duck. Anyway, let's get back to Aggers.
Yeah.
The voice of cricket. I can't believe we got him on, to be perfectly honest.
It's so nice to hear his voice. You can tell he's a pro, can't you? Just the way he speaks.
Yes.
Yeah. But he has a lot of interesting things to say about the old mental health. A lot of stuff which I didn't really appreciate or know about him, to be fair. So yeah, it was a bit of an eye opener for me, this one.
Well, let's without further ado, smash it for six.
Aggers.
Okay, so today's guest really needs no introduction, but I better had, as it's the medium of sound. He has played cricket for England, taken 666 first-class wickets, and is the legendary voice of cricket. It's Jonathan Agnew.
Well, I'm delighted to be with you, and well done you. You're looking fit and well.
Thank you, thank you very much. Yeah, yes, thank you. I can't quite believe you've agreed to come on the podcast, Jonathan. It's a coup. I'm delighted.
Well, it's nice. I mean, I think people think my job is just turning up and commentating on cricket, but actually there is a lot more to it. And when you hopefully, I think it's true. We do have a very good relationship with our audience, and that means all sorts of different things, and it does mean engaging with people, which is kind of what that part of the job is.
Absolutely.
And so there's a lot that goes on sort of behind the scenes, rather than just rocking up to Lords, to do another One Day International, and it's great because it is that sort of program, and it always was really from the first time that I started working on it, which is over 30 years ago now. Wow. Because Brian Johnston was a great communicator. He knew exactly how to talk to people, and I hope I sort of carried that on, because he was very keen that I should. He and I always got on really well together. It's like an old granddad to me, really. And it's just nice that there is still that relationship between test match special, and the presenters of that, and people who listen. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Which brings me on to my first question, which I can imagine the TMS studio is always awash with treats, including cakes. As we're mined cake, I've been listeners sending a lot of stuff. Have you got? Is there a particular cake that stands out that you can remember?
Well, actually, I mean, the most amazing cake. Well, we've had 2 royal cakes. So one from the late Queen.
Oh, really?
When we were 50, I think. Yeah, she brought this whacking great Dundee cake in.
Right.
It's a bit embarrassing because no one knows what to say, and there were 4 of us lined up. I think there was me, there was Christopher, Bill Frindle, Henry was there. So, but Wayne, what do you say? You know, the Queen standing there with this great cake. No one knows what to say. So I did ask her the obvious question. I said, "Did you make it yourself?" And there was a pause, and she said, looked at me. She said, "Not personally," she said, "but specially," which is quite a good answer.
Right.
And then the other one for the World Cup final 2019 had this incredible cake in which the trophy, there was Owen Morgan, there was the Kane Williamson, there was Bales, there was Stumps, there was everything.
Wow.
And that was, again, I don't think made personally by Camilla, but it was certainly delivered on her behalf anyway. Okay. So those are 2 quite good standout cakes. Yeah, we get all sorts. We get kids having a go at making a cake to ones like that. So right. But it's just that nice interaction with.
Absolutely. No, it's nice to get both ends of the spectrum. You've got one from the Queen, and
yeah.
I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old daughter, so I can imagine the types of cakes you also.
Oh, you get all sorts. Yeah, I mean, some barely edible. We tend to give those to Sky.
Okay, well, I suppose we're going to talk about mental health. And my first question was going to be: you've spent obviously many years on the road as a cricketer and a commentator, and I wondered whether that affects, how your family cope with that, how you cope with that being away, and whether that affects mental health at all.
Absolutely. And again, it's one of those things that's sort of taken for granted, or at least people who would love my job, of which there are many, I don't think really consider all the aspects of it. That is one. I mean, I've missed, I've been doing this for 33 years. So therefore you can roughly halve that in terms of Christmases, because we miss every other one. So that's 16 Christmases. Yeah. Kids' birthdays, most years in the case of my children, because of when they were born. And so it's a very selfish job. I couldn't see myself doing anything else. And I've been very lucky, sort of second time round with Emma, who was a journalist herself. My first wife never understood it at all. That's fine. I'm not surprised necessarily. Mm-hmm. But Emma's a journalist, and so she does get it, and she's made a big effort. She comes away often. In fact, she's coming to Pakistan, so I think she's managed to avoid that over the years. But I've told her this time: you come to Australia, come to West Indies, do all these things. Then you are coming to Pakistan, because there's not a huge amount to do. I mean, it's a fascinating country. I'm looking forward to going back. But she does make that effort, and I think you have to. If it's going to work. Mm-hmm. And so, but to answer your question, yes. I mean, you go back to your room, and there's nothing there. Okay, you've had a long day, you're tired. It's usually hot where we go, so you're a bit flaked out. But when you're away, I mean, it has got better. When I first started doing this job, you were away for 130 odd days in Australia. There were no mobile phones.
Yeah, of course.
There was no question of young kids coming out. You were there for the long haul.
Yeah.
Now it's much better. There is more time. The tours are a bit shorter. Yeah. They're more compressed. They are shorter tours. There's more of them. But I would say that I'm at home much more now than I was when I first started.
Well, we're obviously doing this now because you're just about to go to Pakistan, I believe.
Yes, I'm going next week. A week today. So I'm in that sort of. Trying to get things organised. Is just typical of touring that part of the world. There are a few things that are an issue. We still don't know where we're staying in one place yet. But things will happen, and it'll work out. And miraculously, we'll pop up on the air and from Multan, where it's about 40 degrees at the moment. God knows how it's going to cope. Yeah. And on we go. That's the cycle. It's what it is.
So how long are you going to be away for then this time?
Oh, this is only about a month. So this for me is nothing.
Yeah.
And Emma's coming for the last 10 days as well. So this is just a nice trip. But
when you say it's only a month, but that's, it's a considerable amount of time. And I was wondering, when you're away for that amount of time, like you say, it's very solitary, I would imagine.
Yeah.
When you go back to your room, do you have any, you see these people on like Race Across the World who've like packed Monster Munch or hula hoops. Do you have any routines or anything that you particularly have to take with you to stay grounded?
No, well, I tell you, I mean, what my lockdown project was playing the guitar, learning the guitar.
Okay.
I'm quite a musical bloke, and so leading on from that, I will bet that I'm the first cricket correspondent ever to take a euphonium on tour, which is what I'm doing to Pakistan.
Okay.
Because I've joined the Melton Band after 45 years of not playing any brass instrument. I've taken it. I've got back into it again. So I used to play the tuba, but I don't want to play tuba anymore. So I'm playing the euphonium, which is fab. It's amazing because having literally not touched a musical instrument. I mean, I was a music scholar at school playing tuba, so I played it a lot. But having not literally touched a brass instrument for 45 years, when the Melton Band dropped a band instrument euphonium off, the fingering is the same on a euphonium as it is on a tuba.
Right.
Every note I knew, I knew exactly the fingering for every note after 45 years, because the muscle memory and what you learn when you're young, it stays in there. I mean, I can't remember people's names I met this morning, but yeah, every note. I mean, the whole playing it is different. It's a different instrument, but I'm taking my euphonium because it's very busy when I get back. We've got obviously Christmas coming up. We've got Christmas concerts and playing in carols in Sainsbury's, all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take the euphonium, and I've got a thing you can shove in the bell, and it makes it virtually silent. So I'm not going to annoy people in the next door hotel room in Multan. Because there isn't anything else to do. There is no bar. Yeah. So you don't meet anybody. It's a different sort of a tour with a lot of time in the evenings to kill. So I'm taking my euphonium and I shall be playing that merrily away.
Is that well, I suppose two things. Do you find that helps your mental health, just like that creativity, that playing a musical instrument? Without
any doubt. It's the best thing I've done. It's the best thing I've done for years. There's a lot been going on behind the scenes this last year. Jobs been restructured, all those things. And the only time really that I haven't thought about it and not really been, the way things turned out timing wise, I was actually on my own quite a lot, February, March, April, with a lot of this stuff going on and the job and stuff. And the only time I wasn't thinking about it was when I was playing my euphonium and practicing, because I've had a lot of catching up to do, so I've played it quite a lot. But just to do that and then be part of the band, to go every Tuesday night, I can't wait. I cannot wait for Tuesdays to come around. But you're part of a team again. And what I love about them is that I'm Jonathan. I'm Jonathan second euphonium. Mm-hmm. I'm not Agger's cricket man or anything. They don't give a stuff about that. I'm just second euphonium. I'll play bad notes. I get told off. I'm just treated as one of the band, and I absolutely love it. And it's the best thing I've done for a very long time, and it clears the mind completely. Mm-hmm. You can think about nothing else when you are playing. When you're playing in a band or practicing yourself, there's no room for anything else. Mm-hmm. And so I honestly, I just think, in my case, going back to a musical instrument, but like with the guitar, learning a new instrument. Definitely.
Just immerse yourself in it.
Absolutely, and it does clear the head. And when you've had a good blow or you plucked away for a bit, and you put it down, you do feel clear. Your head does feel clear. I never really understood what mental health issues were really until I suspect. Well, fairly recently, I know you are aware of suicide rates in cricket, and I've lost a number of friends. Most recently Graham Thorpe. And it's tragic. It's you try and work out why is it that people who I know who are involved in cricket are generally very easygoing people. They're usually intelligent people. But that doesn't count for anything, does it? If you have a mental illness, if you are susceptible to depression, it doesn't matter what your background is or anything. It's like anything. It hits you, and it is a rather unspoken about tragedy of cricket that I think people. I'm guessing, but I think part of the problem is that because they are generally. Sort of grammar school, they are generally quite well-educated, bright people. Yeah. Who therefore probably have not been to university or not pushed on with their education. They've gone straight from school straight from school to playing professional cricket. And so they've got no qualifications as such, and they play professional cricket for 15 years or so, entertain big crowds, have a lovely time. Everyone thinks they're wonderful and marvellous. And then suddenly, at age 35, with a couple of kids and a mortgage, it's gone.
Yeah.
And they've got nothing, and they've got no preparation for anything. And so I mean, I'm sure there's many other things aside, but that I think is one of the issues that doesn't help.
I wasn't aware of this at all, which is bad on my part. And I mentioned when we were chatting earlier that my father-in-law, I'm going to give him a name check, Eddie. Could you say hello, Eddie? That would make his day.
Yes, hello, Eddie. It's nice to talk to you.
He's delighted that, as am I, obviously, but he's delighted that you're coming on the podcast. And it was him who says, "Oh, you can speak to Aggers about the high suicide rate in and depression and mental health issues with cricketers." And I'm like, that's not a thing, is it? And yeah, I think.
Books have been written about it.
It's huge. Yeah, I mean, I when you look into it, you're like, well, how has this passed me by? I wasn't aware that it's like twice the rate of any other sport.
Yeah, it's one of those things that people don't really talk about, isn't it?
No, that's right.
I mean, mental health, as I say, I'm a late comer to mental health issues, really, because although I found myself very lonely on tour and stuff at times, I didn't put that down to being a mental health issue. I just put it down to me being by myself, lonely, But maybe these days that would be more of a mental health thing. I don't know. I mean, it's a very interesting thing. I mean, people say that they got depressed when they were dropped by England. Yeah. Well, I get that, but is that depression? Are you affected by the fact that you've been dropped by England because that's possibly the end of your career? And that's what professional sport's all about. Yeah. Or is that actual depression, which is a mental illness? I don't know. It's such a complicated area, isn't it?
I mean, I've been sort of, having found this information out fairly recently, I was ruminating with Eddie about this, and I said, well, they're away from home a long time, but then you talk about the Lions and footballers and other sports as well do similar things, and you're trying to pinpoint one particular thing. And I mean, I've written it down what his because he used to play cricket, and I think this says more about Ed than maybe he would care to let on. But he texted me the other night and said, "Do you think that when a batsman is out, it inevitably causes the player to question themselves, which results in an abnormal lack of self-esteem? They cannot change the result any more than someone missing a crucial penalty. You can't help replaying it in your mind and beating yourself up about it." And like you're saying, people get dropped from, whether it's the England cricket team, people get dropped from the England football team, from the England hockey team, or whoever it is. But there's something, cricket is a bit different in that you're out there either all day fielding, or, I don't know. I've never been a batsman, but I would imagine you've got to be mentally alert. And then you're kind of switching off as kind of, they reset for the next ball. And it is a strange sport. And whether is something in that, the finality of sort of ruminating, going over it in your head as to replaying that shot. Because when you're out, like you say, that's it.
Well, you're very exposed. I think, I don't know. I mean, the thought back when I was playing of somebody having counselling because they were dropped, people would think, people would laugh. Yeah. But it is something that is clearly difficult. And what do you say to someone when he's out first ball at Lords in front of 30,000 people at this match against Australia? On the one hand, you've got to be mentally tough to play Test cricket. Otherwise, you won't succeed. But on the other hand, everyone's human, and what does mentally tough mean? I mean, does it mean be able to? I don't know. As soon as that door is opened into it, the more you sort of you consider it, don't you? And I mean, you do have to be tough. You are out there. It's one of the great things about cricket. When you are batting, you're out there with your mate. Yeah. With 11 hostile, the enemy all around you. Yeah. And you've got the two of you are out there against it. It's hard. It's
quite gladiatorial.
It is, and so. I sort of hesitate to use expressions like sort of toughens you up these days because that sounds, as if I don't know. It's a bit demeaning of people who find it difficult. But it is a fact. If you can't cope with that, you're not going to succeed. So somewhere in the middle lies the truth.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned again a different mental health context, but you mentioned your wife Emma has recently been diagnosed with cancer, and I hope you don't mind just mentioning.
No,
talking about that, but again, that's I'm going through my own experiences that how that has affected her and your mental health and kind of your outlook on life generally, I guess.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, she was diagnosed in 2017, and it was breast cancer, and it wasn't a good one.
Yeah.
And it was an aggressive little so-and-so. Fortunately for Emma and for me, it was the type. It was for her too. So it was one that did have actually quite successful treatments.
Okay.
And I'm touching wood frantically here. It's gone at the moment. It's gone. So she's had all that. But you're right in that that's only the start of the process in a way.
Yeah.
She's had her 17, 18, so 18, 19, so she had a 6 years clear scan a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
But she always gets very stressed about that.
Yeah.
Obviously, every headache she gets, she's got brain cancer.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever goes away. Did it change? It's hard to say for me whether it's changed her. I think it, as you know, it gives you a focus, doesn't it? I mean, it makes you think, hang on a minute, actually, I'm immortal after all. This could get me.
Yep.
And so therefore, your view at the time of life is bound to be different. And I do think her view of life since has been different. And you talk about sort of that cliche way you can do of sort of, you never know, change my life. And then, I look at, take every day and that stuff. I think there is but I do think there is an element of that because I'll never forget. And I remember saying it to her the day that she was given her clear. She had 6 months of chemotherapy, which was not nice. Then an operation, and when the news came back that the op was all it was clear and the clear margins and all that, I remember we went to Marks and Spencer's to get some food of all things, and I remember saying to her, we must never forget how we feel right now. Absolutely. This moment, because it'll be very easy just in a few years' time to go, we're jolly happy, but actually this is beyond that. This was something that. This was an incredible feeling, the like of which I've never experienced before, I must say, because it was just like you were in a different world. Yeah, and of course it didn't last. Life. You sort of get back into everyday life again. I mean, we look back at it and still obviously talk about that, and we still talk about where she goes, what she's been through and what we went through as a couple. That's tough. And I mean, there is a book to be written, if it hasn't been done already, about the supporter, the partner. Yep. Because you feel utterly helpless. It's very challenging. No one is interested in you at all. And that's fine because you're not the patient as such. But in a way, you are a patient. We're going back to that whole mental health issue again. Actually, you're in a dark place. Yeah. I was thinking about her funeral and all this, which is not a great place to be. But there is no interest in you at all. You just have to get on with it. Yeah. And that's fine because obviously, you are not the patient, but I think you are still a patient because what you're dealing with is pretty grim. I mean, we had a deal, so I got an hour off a day, 6 o'clock till 7 o'clock. We live next door to a pub. So I'd get dinner ready. I was a terrible cook then. I've improved a bit recently, but I was a terrible cook. And so I'd get dinner ready. Then I'd have my hour in the pub. Come back pretty wrecked. Yep. Just a release. Yeah. And they never talked about cancer. They never talk about cricket in there. Yeah, I'm just one of the village. And I come back, ruined dinner. And disaster. And there'd be stuff thrown. It was so. But it's just, it's a weird time, isn't it? And it is. And that's how this podcast kind of started. Was episode 2 is kind of my story, and it's still to happen. We're now 27 episodes in, I think, That's amazing.
There's been talk of my wife Gemma doing an episode for that very reason, in that it's
I think
one
she must.
thing. Yeah, I think I
Yeah, but presumably you're obviously a very easy communicative bloke. I mean, I've never met you, but you're not difficult to have a conversation with. So I mean, I assume that she's talked to you about what it's been like for her too. Is she? I mean, you can feel a bit guilty.
Yeah.
So, hang on a minute. Put your hand up. What about me over here? Actually, I'm finding it a bit crap as well.
I mean, we've talked about this before, in that we've only really talked about it recently, in that I found it quite divisive, because I say at the time my youngest was 8 months old, and my eldest was 3, and so I'm thinking of all the things I've got. Like they gave me 4 to 6 months. The 6 months they said was going to be a positive outcome. So I'm thinking I've got like a to-do list that I need to get done, because I'm fix the boiler, make just stupid things to make sure that she's not left in the shit when I pop my clogs. And I'm kind of focused on the here and now. It's probably the most mindful I've ever been, I think. Whereas she's focused on, well, how the hell am I going to pay the mortgage? What am I going to do with 2 young kids who, where the dad's died? And so she's kind of focused on, the future. What am I going to do? How am I going to deal with the aftermath?
Yeah.
And I'm in it, or we're both in it, but I'm kind of dealing with, well, what do I need to do today?
Yeah, you're in different places, aren't you? I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I mean, she must tell her story, because I do think that part of the relationship is very important, because it is difficult, and I cried over her consultant several times. She's a lovely woman, and I guess she's used to that sort of thing, to be honest. But when else? How else? Where do you go? Where do you go and have a good cry? Where do you go and get rid of that tension? Well, I went to the pub, which wasn't probably great, looking back. But what else do you do?
Well, I have to say, I'll get my plug in about Maggie's. Maggie's for us were tremendous. I don't know what we'd have done without them, but yes, it's. I think
you must have her on.
Yes, yes.
I will. To be honest, I mean, we did talk about it a lot. I mean, there was some debate as to whether or not I should mention it on the radio, but I had to, because I wasn't going to be around. Fortunately, the BBC were very good, and they, when she was having chemo, I took her, obviously, and so that did interrupt a fair number of games. But I think the BBC and my colleagues are a bit uncomfortable with it. I went on the radio and I said, "Look, I'm not going to be around for a while because," but I mean, I hate social media. I hate it with a passion. However, because it's so negative, and that really does damage you. That really does get you down. But the support that Emma had, we both had, to be fair, at that time, all the nice people came out, and all the horrid people slunk away into the woodwork. And you didn't hear from them. The support we had from people was incredible, and definitely played a huge part in her being very positive about the treatment. And she embraced chemo. She said, "This is going to save my life. Bring it on. Bring it on. Give it to me." Which has to be, if you can, the right way to do it. You have to
absolutely.
You have to look at it as being a positive thing, I'm afraid. But without it, your chances of you would imagine less than if you have it. If you've got to welcome it in. And Emma was fortunate; it didn't really affect her that badly. There's a very low percentage of people who are not really badly affected by chemo, and she was one of those. So, having got a sort of a runway ready to the bathroom, I said to the nurse, "When's it going to hit?" She said, I think the 3rd night. I think she said. Right. The first dose. So I had a sort of like a runway lit up to the toilet, the bathroom, everything else, towels and stuff. Well, it didn't happen the 3rd night. So I lit the runway up again the 4th night. Nothing happened. 5th night, nothing happened. And in fact, she wasn't really. I think she might have been sick only once. She lost all her hair, of course, the usual side effect. But so she was
one of the. I never had any to start with, so I was.
Well, there you go.
I was all right on that front.
She can you be fortunate? Can you be lucky? Well, yeah, I think she probably consider that she has been lucky. That this thing has gone. She had brilliant people looking after her. It's they were lovely too. They were all of them. The 3 main specialists that she had, the oncologist, the main specialist, and the radiographer, all mad cricket fans. They all
Okay.
Indian background, and they didn't say a word. When we first walked in, they only ever talked to Emma, never talked to me. And then, of course, at the end, when it was all over, they revealed their hand. And I managed to get one actually up into the commentary box for an India game, which was great. The oncologist, a lovely chap called Kieran. So he met all his heroes, Ganguly, all these people, you know. So you try and give something back to these incredible people, you know, who are dealing with so much horrible stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they do get those positive outcomes as well. It must be amazing for them.
Yeah, like I say, I don't know how they do the job. But you know, when you go to oncology appointments now, you know, I'm very conscious of the mood of people sat around me who are, you know, possibly in a similar situation to I was 4 years ago.
I sat outside the radiography place when Emma went in for, I think it was her final scan. That one so the Marks and Spencer's day, and I was sitting there in this familiar little sort of off waiting room type place, you know, and there was a mother and daughter there, both looking as they'd been hit by a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
So I assumed it was first day, and through tears, I said, "Look, I don't know you. I'm just saying to you that a year ago, we were sitting where you are in that position. My wife is in there now, having the scan that we are 99.99% sure is going to say that she's clear.
Yeah.
It's a process. It's not great, but think in a year's time you could be sitting where I am, and I hope you are." And that was it was a bit intrusive, but I just felt, you know, say it because.
No, absolutely. Sometimes you just have to reach out to people, and what you said there, hopefully you're in the same position, and sometimes that's all you've got is hope. It is,
and you know, you are clearly, you know, exceptional in what you are doing.
Yeah, they can't really tell me why, and which is frustrating.
Well, yes, but also does it matter? You know, you are where you are.
Yeah.
You know, we go back to that thing of, you know, I know that corny stuff of every day and so on, but you know, you are where you are.
Here I am talking to you, Jonathan.
Well, yeah. But you know, but it's true, and you're providing hopefully a very valuable service to people who and some do give up. Some people do give up. You know, the chemo ward where Emma was, you'd see people there sort of hunched up and looking awful and terrible, and coming in and looking in a real rotten state, and you think, come on, just try and dig deep. And I know it's, you know, all this be strong stuff is again wrong. You know, you know, again, social media with the pump fist and stuff. But it does help if you can be positive. There's a difference between being strong or, you know, man up and being positive.
Yeah,
I do think that most people can be positive. You reach out and you be positive about whatever situation you're in, because actually, if you're not, then it probably, you know, there's a good chance you're not going to get through it. Whatever the problem is, if you can get into it in a positive, upbeat, you know, try and meet it head on and give it your best shot. That has to be the way to do anything, doesn't it? Any job, you know, any issues at home, any marital, all these sort of things that everyone faces in their lives.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I mean, before obviously I was diagnosed, it was my worst nightmare, anybody's worst nightmare to be told that news. And I saw my dad go through it and thought, well, I could never be as strong, you know, using that strong word again. I'm not as strong as him. I would just crumble. And then you're in it. And you haven't really got a lot of choice, because you just kind of, exactly. What's the other option? You just kind of got to get on with it.
Close the door, and you know,
exactly.
There isn't an option. Really. I think you have to find your own way. You know, I was lecturing people and stuff probably isn't the answer either, and I'm not meaning to do that. I think you have to find your own way.
Yeah.
In which you are therefore best prepared to give it your best shot in whatever it is. You know, we all have our own methods, don't we? And
absolutely,
we can all find a way that puts us in a better place.
Absolutely. Do you mind if we finish with some quick fire round questions?
Yeah, go on. These people can wait. I mean, it's only a Pakistan briefing tour.
Well, yeah, but I want to know what your favourite cricket ground is. That's much more important.
That's a good question. I mean, I like going to Lords. I mean, I don't know when this is going out, but I'm going tomorrow for a one-day international against Australia, which is always a bit special. Although these things are a bit tacked on the end, but to go to Lords, it's very easy. It's very easy when you do a job like mine to take a lot of stuff for granted, and it's very good. Just sometimes I walk in at Lords. Usually I get there quite early, but sometimes I get there with the crowd coming in.
Okay.
Feel the excitement of people having been there.
Yeah.
Wow, look at this. It was much smaller than I thought it was going to be. Look at that slope. All these things that we've talked about and you take for granted.
Yeah.
And I first played there in 1977.
Wow.
And I've been going there regularly ever since. So, there's a slope. Yeah, and this is what it is. And, you sort of go, there's the nursery end and that all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to take it for granted. So, look, I mean, Lords is obviously a favourite. Adelaide is probably my favourite overseas ground. I love going there. It's just a beautiful ground in a lovely city. In a great part of the world, so I always love going back to Adelaide.
I used to go out with a woman from St John's Wood. You could see Lords from her flat window. I've never been to Lords though.
Oh well, there you go. Put it on your list.
Okay, that wasn't as quick at fire round as I thought it was going to be. But if you weren't a cricket commentator, what would you be doing?
Oh crikey! I mean, that's a really difficult question.
Musician, by the sounds of things.
Well, I don't know if I'm good enough. I mean, my main hobby is actually flying.
Okay.
So I could see myself having been a commercial pilot. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'll take that.
Again, it's something that where you just switch your mind off and you can go off and just forget about everything else. No one can contact you. So yeah, I'll take the dogs with me. We go to Skegness to the beach and fly most of the time.
Nice.
So that's yeah.
Okay. Best sledge you ever heard on the pitch?
Well, my best sledge is actually one that I had off the pitch.
Okay.
It did feature an Australian, and they're usually the best at this.
Yeah.
So this is the Andrew Flintoff Tour of Australia in 2006-7. We lost the Ashes. Melbourne. It was a great event, the Boxing Day Test match, and I leapt out of bed, got out of the hotel, onto the street, hailed a taxi, and I jumped in the front seat. And all I said to this taxi driver was MCG. And he looked at me, he said, "Oh, mate, I know who you are. I've been listening to you on the radio, haven't I? You're Aggers, aren't you?" I said, "Well, yes, I am. Quite pleased actually that an Australian should recognise me just saying MCG." He said, he looked at me and said, "Mate," he said, "you're much less handsome than you sound on the radio." A great line, isn't it?
Only the Aussies.
Yeah.
The Aussies. Okay. Would you rather face a bouncer from Jofra Archer, sorry?
Yeah.
Or commentate with a sore throat?
Oh, commentate with a sore throat. I've had my fill of bouncers and stuff. It's horrible.
I was going to say, yeah, I bet you have.
I'll put up with a sore throat. It is a commentator's curse. I mean, a cold and a sore throat is rubbish because you don't feel well. You sound horrible.
Yeah,
that's pretty crap, really.
Okay, and finally, I know you've got to go. Sorry, I've kept you too long. But finally, what piece of advice would you give your younger self, do you think?
Oh, I think I could probably have worked harder as a cricketer. I could have trained harder.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think so, if I'm being honest.
You took 666 wickets.
I know, but I think I could have played for England more.
Was it 3 caps?
Yeah, I could have played more than that. It's quite a tight competition at the time.
Yeah.
I think I could have played more than that. Perhaps not take yourself terribly. Don't take yourself too seriously. I think that's something. I mean, I do tend to overthink things, and that goes back to the whole mental health issue again.
Yeah.
In that, if you do overthink, I mean, I clearly have a very active mind, because that's what makes me able to do what I do. I sit down and I look at cricket, and I am able to sort of conjure stuff up, conversations or things to talk about, colour. My brain clearly goes quickly, but that does mean, therefore, that I can dwell on things, away from that.
You and me both.
I'd love to be able to get rid of that and just go boom and just let it go. Just move on and think about nice things or whatever. I can find myself, issues, problems. Thinking things through too much and imagining scenarios that you think, hang on a minute, that hasn't happened. So why are you thinking about that scenario there? If that happens, and if that happens, then there we are. And I'm thinking about that and I'm getting very worried about it. But actually, none of it's happened. Yeah. So, Yeah, I think probably that overthinking is. I've got a very good book actually that I got the other day about that. So I've just started to read. I'll take it to Pakistan as well, between euphonium practices, just to try and not dwell on stuff.
Dwell on stuff, yeah.
Yeah, because you tend to dwell on negative things, don't you?
Yeah.
Things that are worrying you.
Yeah, you never dwell on positive things, do you?
No, you don't, unfortunately.
Well, maybe if you're at a loose end in your hotel room in Pakistan, you dial into a few episodes of Mind Cake.
Oh, I've not seen that.
No, this podcast.
Oh, this. Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you meant it was a TV program.
No.
Well, I could, but I hope I'll get your wife on it.
Well, I will say that you have told her that she should do it.
Yes, because actually, I reckon she'll find it good.
Mm-hmm. I don't think she should speak. We've got a co-host called Paul Beeson,
right?
And I think it would be better if he spoke to her.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Rather than me talking to her, because I think that could be a bit.
Yeah, I think she'll find it very cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
Has she had any counselling?
She has had some counselling. Yeah,
it just gets you talking, doesn't it?
Absolutely,
talking, and that I think is that's the big thing. If you can talk about it, and you can talk about it openly and honestly, and I think you're right, probably not to do it to you, but to do it to your mate.
Yeah,
I think she'll feel a lot better for having done it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a bit teary.
And telling the world.
Yeah, it'll be teary, it'll be emotional.
Yeah,
but it also help people too, and that's kind of what we're all, not help. Well, that sounds like you're sort of lecturing to people. It's not. It's just, I think when people reveal, like Emma and I, and with a lot of people who know what we do and who we are and stuff, I do think that there's a lot of positivity comes out of that for people who are going through the same thing. Oh, what if it happened to them as well? It's sort of it makes it it's sort of more accessible. Maybe it's sort of we're together. There's no special cases, or you're not just unlucky, or you are unlucky, but lots of people are unlucky. There's much more out there than perhaps you think there is.
And I think that's what I say. Why me and Paul started the podcast is to kind of get the conversation going, get the conversation out there, get people discussing it, because I think it is still. We had Alistair Campbell on, and he was telling it's one of the last great taboos. People still don't talk about mental health, and I think like you're saying that there is something to say that if you hear someone else talk about, maybe how you feel, and you suddenly go, I've had it before where you had this sort of weight lifted off your shoulders, where you go, oh, that's how I feel. I thought that was just me that felt like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the key.
Yeah, he's not feeling quite as alone as maybe you did beforehand.
No, well, exactly. And I think when other people are going through it, and other people are coping with it or trying to cope with it, and what they're doing to try and cope with it, then it encourages you to perhaps give that a go, or just to say, well, hang on a minute, okay, so there are other people out there. I'm not just. It's just not just me that's feeling this way. I think there's a huge benefit in that.
Yeah. Jonathan, I know you got to go, so thank you so much for.
Oh, mate, I just wish you all the very best, and I wish you well.
And to you, and to your lovely wife Emma, and
you keep bashing on.
I will try my best. I'm not out so far. I don't feel like a night watchman, maybe, but I'm
still swaying the odd bouncer, but you just keep
still
taking
standing.
it hard. Keep taking it hard. Yeah.
But safe travels in Pakistan. All the best, and thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Take care. So, Paul, you have listened to this episode.
I have.
Thoughts?
Yeah, what a gentleman. It's very kind of him to give up his time. Obviously, he's a very busy guy. But I think, some of the stuff he said really sort of resonated with me because, I have to go off on tour and things like that. So I have to spend a lot of time
in Pakistan.
Well, not in Pakistan necessarily, but, on my own in hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And
we don't want to know where you get up to, playing your accordion.
My accordion. But just that sort of that distinction between lonely, what he thought was loneliness, that was actually sort of mental health kind of related, and having to miss birthdays and holidays and things like that because of a busy work schedule. So that sort of resonated with me a little bit, and it's that sort of thing about weighing up what's important, working all the time although that can be good, is maybe not always the right thing to do.
No, I mean, I thought it was interesting. I think how things have changed, which I never really thought about before. But he was obviously on his way to Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
Was the bit in there where he was getting a phone call from the Pakistani embassy?
No, I think
Pakistani,
you edited
did
that
edit that out. Oh, don't worry, it's just the Pakistani consulate. They can wait. Anyway, no, what I was going to say was this is only a short one. He's only away for a month. I'm like, a month?
Mm-hmm.
And his wife was going. Whereas, back in the day, he was out there for 3 months or wherever, whether it's India, Australia, whatever. And there was no social media. There's no, iPhones or, what's it called?
FaceTime.
FaceTime. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
There's no FaceTime. And yeah, he's out there for 3 months. Or imagine, I suppose, if I say civilization, but I would imagine some of the places he maybe went to in Pakistan, like you said, there's no bar, there's nothing there. He's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah.
I imagine if you're in Melbourne or Australia or whatever, then it maybe is a bit more. There's a bit more things to do, but at the same time,
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, because he said like his favourite overseas ground was Adelaide, so he obviously feels a bit of an affinity with that ground and that place. But if you're isolated and you're on your own, it doesn't matter how much cool stuff there is to do in the city you're staying in. It's still a lonely place to be. You can go and do stuff, but if you're doing it on your own, it's not always the best way to experience a city or events or whatever it is. So
no, that is very true. I remember when I was traveling, or at certain times when you got excited about something, or seeing a place, or meeting a person, or whatever it was, and it was a kind of that. I wish I had someone to share this with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's then retrospectively talking about that experience, oh, you remember that time we met so and so and so and so, or even in that moment. So yeah, no, I'd never really thought about that before. But yeah, you're right in that you can have whatever at your disposal as a playground, but sometimes when you're on your own, it's not the same experience.
No, and I guess now he's lucky that he's in a position where his wife can travel with him when he does have to be away, and they can actually do stuff together and stuff. But that's not always feasible. Like I'll be going away at the end of the month for 4 weeks, and Gail's got work commitment. Do you know what I mean? Like she's got a job, so she can't just come away and experience the Yorkshire Dales for a month.
Well, she said you didn't want to go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she does want to. Maybe she does want to spend a month in the Yorkshire Dales with me,
with you in a travel lodge.
No, I'm in a nice wee cottage this time, not a travel lodge.
You've gone up in the world, haven't you?
Just for this gig, yeah.
Oh.
But it's when you're both busy people and you're apart, you can't, you're not always in a position to just do stuff like that together. But I'll try and get home, and maybe if she's got a couple of days, she can come down, so it won't be so isolated. Do you know what I mean? But it's it's
I
tough.
can come and visit.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try and get over to old Nutty Knutsford to see it.
Yeah.
If I can swing it, if I can get the last show of the day off, I can get over and have a beer.
Yeah, I'd have a beer, and then you could do the park run on the Saturday morning with us.
I'll have shows on the Saturday morning, mate. I'm
afraid. Yeah, that old chestnut.
that old chestnut of work. Yeah, getting in the way of stuff.
So no, the other thing I was going to say about Aggers was I thought it was interesting that having had the career that he's had, and taken 666 wickets or whatever it was, and obviously very successful in the BBC, been the voice of cricket for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just tell when he was talking that it still niggled him, and it still not bothered him, but it was still on his mind that he could have maybe tried a bit harder at cricket, and that's his regret. If he'd had his time over again, I could have maybe tried it. And I mean, he was in an era, would have been in an era with proficient. What's the word I'm looking for? England team. It would have been a very
successful team.
A very successful team, but you could see it kind of played on his mind that he maybe should have played for England more and should have knuckled down a bit more. And you think you've been at the top of your game, and both professionally as a sportsman and as a commentator.
Yeah.
and still not say beating himself up, but still, oh, if only I'd maybe tried
But
a bit harder.
I don't know, maybe that's the mindset of a sports person, though, isn't it? It's like no matter how much success you've had, you'll always look back at certain moments, go, oh, I wish I'd done that differently or just worked a bit harder there. It doesn't matter how successful you are. I think when you're built for dealing with that kind of pressure or success or whatever it is in that line of work.
Like a highly machined triathlete, that sort of person.
Yeah, just like you, Lee. You know what it's like when you're you do your 5K or whatever and you're a few seconds off your PB and you're like, damn, just wish I'd just had one donut this morning or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah. So what you're saying is really that the difference between there's only a fag paper difference between me and Jonathan Agnew as professional sport.
One of those super thin Rizzlers that's, you know, kind of see-through. Like one of those ones. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that, but now that makes sense. So anyway, yes, well, that was a kind of brief overview. I'm just conscious that we've not done a Mind Bites.
No,
or Leanne or Amy. I don't know if we need to do a Mind Bites for Amy because she's going to obviously come on and take your job anyway. So we can talk to her whenever. I say we. I can talk to her whenever I like. And then Jonathan Agnew. So we've got a Mind Bites to do, really, to round all that up.
Well, why don't we do a Mind Bite for Leanne and Aggers, and then maybe have a Mind Bite for all of Amy's stuff because she's got like 4 episodes coming up or something. So,
or maybe get Amy on with the pair of us to discuss.
Oh, but then she'll outshine me in person.
That's one I'm just for the final death nail in the coffin, Paul. Get her on with you.
Fuck you. No, that'd be great. Do you know what? Since she's done such a mammoth job, maybe she should be part of the Mind Bites.
And then we could probe her about. We could ask her about the difference between Pilates and yoga.
Yes.
So we could reflect on her multitude of episodes.
Can't wait.
I know. I thought you'd be up for that. However, it will be your swan song. But any news about Barbara and her dirty rug? Has she got anyone to? You are still doing rugs.
I am, yeah. So what day are we on? Wednesday. So I'm delivering one tomorrow before the first show, and Friday I'm going up to Dundee to pick one up. So
is it generally old people?
It's a real mixture. A real mixture. Yeah,
bit like our demographic.
There's some from our demographic, but there's some are in their 20s, some are in their 80s, everywhere in between.
Who in their 20s wants their rug cleaned professionally?
You'd be surprised, mate.
Well, I am surprised. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. A lot. There are some young people who've had like a really expensive rug passed down, like as an heirloom. You know,
right. Had a party
because it's worth so much money. Yeah, and then
they've crunched up what sits into the thread.
Yeah.
Millennials kicked over their iron brew.
Yeah, the cans of Monster.
Yeah, absolute scumbags. I'm glad they don't listen to this. Arseholes. If you're 20, in your 20s and listen to this, turn off now.
Oh, speaking of which, one of the girls who's working on Sweet FA at the moment, her friend is doing a podcast about mental health, and she is a young lass in her 20s.
Oh, God, I like it already. What's it called?
I can't remember what it's called.
I bet it's not as good as Mind Cake.
Well, I don't know.
Title. I mean, obviously in content it'll be much better. as a title. Yeah.
But I might get her on as a guest. Get a young team.
Oh, do we have to have
you on mental health?
Well, do you know what? I'll run it past Amy and see what she thinks. Now that there's 3 of us, we can have a vote on stuff.
Oh yes, I can see how this is going to go.
No, I'm just. I don't know. Do you know what? I genuinely don't know how old Amy is. She might be siding with the youngsters.
Yeah.
Get some fresh blood on those. Are you 2 idiots talking about nonsense?
Yeah. let's see what happens.
Anyway, you've got to leave in 2 minutes. You haven't even done your housekeeping. Do you want to bother or not?
Yes, obviously. Let's do my housekeeping.
Do it.
Holbee's housekeeping. Oh, how very lovely.
If you want to get in touch with us, please find us on Instagram and Twitter at Mindcake Podcast.
No, whoa. No, not on Twitter. I'm shutting that bad boy down.
Okay.
Just Instagram or Facebook.
All right, good. Get off the cesspool that is Twitter.
Yeah.
What about Threads?
Yeah, I don't know how Threads works, but when I post stuff on Instagram, it seems to automatically go to Threads. I don't really understand it. That's why we need someone to do the social media, because I'm just making this up on the hoof.
Right. Shall I start my housekeeping again then?
Do it again. Go.
Holbee's housekeeping. Oh, how very lovely.
You can find us on Instagram and apparently Threads sometimes at Mindcake Podcast. You can send us an email, a good old-fashioned email. We love to read your emails. You can find us at, sliceofmindcake@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook if you search for Mindcake. And please do like, subscribe, and give us a nice little review, because every little helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Asda have used that tagline. Was it Tesco's?
I don't know. It was one or the other.
I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, nicely done, Paul.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, I should have told you that we're not on Twitter anymore.
Yeah, but that's fine. Twitter's a cesspool, so yeah, better to stay off it.
Yeah. Did you see our clip I did with Aaron Balak? He's coming up soon.
Ooh.
Little video clip.
On Twitter?
No, but he was talking about if you could ban somebody on social media.
Well,
Thing. I think that might have been on Threads. Threads is supposed to be nice.
Yeah, well, it was nice. When I first joined Threads, it was nice. But a lot of folk from Twitter have come over to Threads, and it's getting a wee bit Twittery.
Yeah, well, that probably explains then the fact that, this was before the American elections. I interviewed Aaron Balak.
That's right.
Very interesting guy, and I asked the question, which was a little, I don't know what you call it, video clip that I put out last week. If you could ban one person from social media, who would it be? And we both kind of agreed, well, it would be two. It would be Donald Trump and Elon Musk. However, I put this clip out, and I think it went on Threads.
Yeah.
If you could ban one person on social media for a year, who would it be? And somebody responded, you.
Wow. A Trump supporter?
I don't know.
Just a random person?
Just a random person. I'm trying to do a mental health podcast here, mate, and you've probably not listened to an episode and just gone, yeah, why don't you fuck off social media for a year? I'm like, well, no. Well, we are. We're not on. I'm going
to
shut that down.
Let Musk and his fanboys do their thing over there.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, we're a minute overdue. You've got to go.
Oh, God. Okay. Right.
So, as much as I'm enjoying this, I'm just got your, because anything that you thought you're going to monetize out of this looks like that's going to Amy now. So you need to keep up the day job with the acting. Yeah,
I better go and get better at that then.
Go to earn some pennies.
I will.
I've got a horrible feeling that if we get Amy on, you two are just going to be chatting about acting. I'm going to sit there like a plum.
That'd be a shame if your little plan backfired, wouldn't it?
It could spectacularly backfire.
Did I tell you I work with David Beckham?
Is that David Beckham talking about himself?
Yes. He always talks about himself in the third person. Anyway, and you talk about all the accents. I would like to go on her spotlight, because she does literally do all the voices.
Yeah.
You could anyway, we'll
get into all that when we come to the big job showdown.
Thank you all for listening, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
See you next time.
Ta-ra, my old friend.
Let's start a podcast about our mental health for no good reason why. Let's call it by